I have something on my machine called HTTPie. I use this all the time. I talk about it in a lot of my courses. HTTPie. It's basically, it's like a, if you ever heard of curl, it's like curl, but easier to use. You can install it if you want. You don't have to use this. You can use whatever you want. You got Postman, you got whatever API client you want to interact with the APIs. But I do recommend getting something comfortable, whether it's a GUI like Postman, whether it's a terminal thing like HTTPie, whatever. Finding your tool to interact with APIs is going to be helpful, because if you're developing on the back end, you're developing APIs, you need to be able to test them. You need to be able to just like execute them right quick to see what's happening. Yeah, so highly recommend doing that. I'm going to use HTTPie to do that and show you how that works. So we're on localhost 8000. So I know with HTTPie, I can just say HTTP. If I'm going to be on localhost, I can just emit the host name and just put the port, which is 8000. And if I don't put anything else, it'll just do a GET request to the blank URL. So let's try that. So I'm gonna do a GET request, and you can see I get hi. And that's exactly what I thought was gonna happen, because it wasn't a post request. So it went down here to this else. It did a 200 and it said hi. So if I go back and look, I get an OK 200, 2K, 200 means OK. And I get a hi. That's exactly what I thought. So let's try to do a post now. So now I'm gonna say HTTP, I'm gonna say post 8000. And then I'm going to post some JSON. So I'm going to say color equals red, and then food equals pizza. So this is basically creating an object with a color field and a food field. That's what this is doing. So I'm going to post that, and then I get OK, right? And then I get this 200 that says it was created. But if I go back and look at the logs, I'm pretty sure I logged this. If I go back over here, you can see, aha, there's that object we sent up. And that was after we chunked it all together, right? Because if we go back and look at our code, I had to chunk this together, as in that JSON object that was sent up from HTTPie was broken up into little bits of data. And every time one of them came in, I appended it to this body string. And then after it was all said and done, I was able to log it, which gave me that JSON object, right? So if I want to turn this back into an actual object, I can say JSON.parse this body, and then we can get some nice color output going. So let's stop this, start it again, run that again, and then boom, you can see it's an actual JSON object now, and not just a JSON string. It's an object, and that's the difference. So you can see that's, I mean, yeah, that's pretty cool, but who wants to do this? I don't want to do this. I don't want to set all this stuff up. And I mean, sure, this is cool if I'm just doing one little, well, if it's a post or not, but what if I have multiple routes and sub routes and dynamic paths and different things like that? It can get pretty complicated. I mean, can you imagine all the if statements in here trying to be like, well, if it's a method post and if the URL contains this and it has, like, that would be crazy. Like, especially if you're building like an API-based product, like I can't imagine. So there are tools for this, and I'm going to walk you through how to use those tools and those packages. But before I do, are there any questions on creating a low-level server in Node.js? Do I have any CLI frameworks that I recommend at the top of my head? I think I can think of two. One is Caporo CLI. I'm gonna type that in. Yep, this one is pretty good. I've used this one before. You can kind of just see the syntax, how different that is. So you literally get the program, you give it a version, you make a command, you define some arguments, some options, and then you run the callback when someone calls that command. It's literally that simple. And it creates like a nice help script for you when someone calls help. It collects all your commands and prints them out for you. It's really cool. So this one's really good. I think the standard that a lot of people use is Commander. Yeah, Commander. A lot of people still use this one. I think this was like the de facto one back in the day, and it still might be. I forgot why I stopped using it, but it is pretty good. You can see it's very similar. Everyone's pretty much got their opinions based off this one. This was like one of the first ones created by some guy named TJ Holloway Chuck that you probably will never hear of now, but was pretty much like a legend in the Node industry back in the day, and still is. The dude's amazing. But I'm pretty sure he created this. So yeah, these two are pretty good. And I think there's another one from Heroku CLI framework. Forgot the name of it. Oak Cliff. It's called Oak Cliff. Yeah. I've tried this one before, but I don't have a lot of experience with it. But I've heard good things. So Oak Cliff is another one that you can check out. But yeah, those are probably like these are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. So yeah, good question. Anything else? Yeah. So the question is, do I still build servers with Node.js? Yes, I do, because there's sometimes not. Okay, how to describe this? It's not that there aren't better tools. There are. But sometimes you need a little more flexibility on what you're doing, and just having a nice open server is great for that. Sometimes I'll just go serverless and I'll just use something like, functions in Next.js. But maybe I don't need a front end. I just need some API routes, and I need to keep it long running because of the type of database that I'm connected to. If you ever try to connect to, I don't know, a Mongo database in a service environment, it's hair pulling. It's ridiculous because it's not meant to be installed in an environment that's going to be shutting down all the time. It's meant to be open the whole time with its connections being pulled and everything like that. So sometimes the servers is a little more convenient. And then also, if I'm doing like some intensive stuff, I want a server. So it really just depends, but it's never at the point where it's like, well, it's either this or it's that. It really just depends on what you're making and what, is going to be best for your job. Like I wouldn't build like a crawler in Next.js. I would probably put that in Node or maybe a service function, but I wouldn't like add it in Next.js along an app. And I also, if my product was an API, if I was a SaaS company, a developer tools company, and my product was an API, I probably wouldn't put that, I wouldn't have that product be sitting next to Next.js and service functions. It would be its own thing behind a gateway, behind a proxy, behind all this other stuff. And really the only way you're going to get there is with an actual API, an actual server. So yeah, because sometimes you need access to those things. So it really just depends on what you're doing. But I would say for most cases, if you're just like, I just need something to send back JSON, yeah, you can get away with that without having to build a full server. But if you're asking that because this seemed kind of scary, well, wait till I show you how to do it the easy way. And then, maybe it won't seem so scary. One more question, okay?
Yeah, I don't know if you can speak at a high level about Node as a backend versus like Java or Ruby.
Yeah, I can. At my current job, we have a lot of backends in a lot of different languages. So I've had some experience with that. And actually the first language that I ever learned was Ruby. Then I learned Python. And then I did learn Java, but not for servers, but for like Android. So I don't really have any server experience there other than my current job now, which does use a lot of Java. Yes, I would say I would always choose Node high level when I don't have any high CPU intensive tasks. So things like arithmetic, AI, machine learning. Yes, you can do it in Node, absolutely, but it wasn't meant for that. And if you tried to do that, it's like trying to squeeze a size 15 shoe in a size 15 foot in a size 10 shoe. It's going to hurt, but you could probably do it. So you're better off using Node for things like, I need a JSON API. I need to query your database and I need to send back some data. That's it. It's a CRUD API. That's all that I'm doing. It's not doing crazy stuff. That's what you would use Node for because it's able to handle a lot of requests out of the box without any tweaking. That's what it was built for. So if you're going for more requests per second and you're going for low CPU intensive task and JavaScript, Node's a really good choice. In fact, the thing is like, you don't really need to, unless you're like $1 billion company, where like a fraction of performance could cost you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. It doesn't really matter what language you pick. Pick the one that works the best for you. It's going to get the job done. No one's going to like not use your app because you decided to use Node. I mean, most people don't even know what Node is, especially your customers who probably aren't technical. So just pick the thing that allows you to get done faster because at the end of the day, it's about being productive and not about what framework or tool you use until it actually does become a problem. Like if you're literally Dropbox and like, well, we can't literally use this language because we need this one feature and it's costing us money and like, okay, then yeah, you should probably go figure that out. But most people aren't in that position. So high level, for me, it's always just come down to, well, I know JavaScript the best, so I always choose Node. That's it. It can do everything that anything else can do up until I'm making $1 billion. And I haven't made $1 billion yet, so I'm gonna keep using Node probably.